Okay, Algebra 2. So yesterday you guys learned about our reciprocal function, or it could also be called a rational function. And we learned a little bit about how it shifts just like all of our other functions. So just a reminder, our parent function looks like this. If we have the graph of 1 over x, we get a graph that looks something like this, where we have two asymptotes, a vertical one and a horizontal one. And then our graph goes down on the right side there and has a kind of opposite mirrored guy right over there. So we learned about how to find our asymptotes and also determine all those shifts. So now let's look at some cool functions. I highly suggest having Desmos ready to roll, or a graphing calculator if you have that. And we're going to do a few things. We're going to identify the domain and range, as well as the vertical asymptote and the horizontal asymptote for all these functions. Okay, so if you remember, our vertical asymptote is actually going to be whatever our horizontal shift is. So if we look at number 4 here, you'll notice our horizontal shift is 0. So we're not going left or right any distance, because remember, that's anything that's added or subtracted to x. So I'm actually just going to say that my vertical asymptote is at x equals 0. Okay, and then I also have a horizontal asymptote. And the way I can figure out what that guy's going to be is I just determine what my vertical shift is, and it's down 2, and that's because that minus 2. So I'm going to do y equals -2. Okay, so conveniently, those are actually going to be the two values that restrict our domain and range. So for our domain, x can equal anything but 0. So the way we would write that is x cannot equal 0. And the reason it can't equal 0 is because we have a vertical asymptote there. And then for our range, y can equal anything but -2. And the way we graph this guy, our vertical asymptote is just a vertical line that's we've drawn it as a dashed line. And at x equals 0, that's going to be actually along our y-axis. And then our horizontal asymptote we draw as a horizontal line, and this one's going to be at -2. And then we learned that our function looks something like this. Remember, you can use Desmos or a graphing calculator, and you should see something very similar to that right there. And you can see our lines get close to our asymptotes but never cross them. Okay, so let's take a look at number 5. It's going to be pretty similar. So we have f of x equals 1 over x plus 3. Remember, our vertical asymptote is our horizontal shift. But when we're thinking about this guy, this is actually going to be going left 3 units because of that x plus 3. Remember, that kind of works the opposite of the way we would think, right? So that's going to be x equals -3 for our vertical asymptote. It looks like we don't have any vertical shift, so we're just going to have a horizontal asymptote at y equals 0. And then remember, for our domain, these guys give away exactly what we cannot equal. So x cannot equal -3 for our domain, but it can equal any other x value. And our range, y cannot equal 0. So let's draw these guys up. X equals -3 is going to be a dashed line at -3, vertical, right? And then our horizontal asymptote is going to be y equals 0. That's going to be right here. And our graphs should go kind of along there and along there. Okay, so now let's look at a graph that has a little bit more going on. So for number 6, you'll notice we have a negative. So everything's going to be reflected over the x-axis. So it's not going to look like numbers 4 and 5, but it will look similar. And then we also have a 4 up top. So that means that our graph should be a little bit stretched out, right? That's an a value that's greater than 1. So other than that, everything still works the same though. So remember, our horizontal shift tells us where the vertical asymptote is going to be. It looks like we're not going left or right at all because we just have x there. So what we can do is we can just say we're going to have a vertical asymptote at x equals 0. Okay? And then our shift is up 1 for our vertical, so that's going to be our horizontal asymptote. Remember, those guys also give us our restrictions. So our domain, x cannot equal 0, and our range, y cannot equal 1. So I'm going to graph these guys up. Vertical asymptote at x equals 0 looks like this. Horizontal asymptote at y equals 1 looks like that. And then when we graph this guy, you got to realize, instead of the normal one we're used to for numbers 4 and 5 that look like that, we're going to reflect over the x-axis. So this guy should actually come up like this, and this one something like that. Okay, so now let's check out number 7. Let's have you guys give this one a try. Okay, so pause the video, and then when you're ready, press play, and I'll go through this one. It looks like we're shifting right 2 and down 2. So that should give us our vertical asymptote's going to be at x equals positive 2 because we went right 2. Then we're also going to have a horizontal asymptote at negative 2 because we went down 2. Remember, that also gives us our domain restrictions here and range restriction. So I'm going to graph these guys. Vertical asymptote at x equals 2. Horizontal at y equals negative 2. Okay. And then this one is going to kind of look more like 4 and 5 because there was no negative out in front. You should get something like that. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and do 8 and 9. These are going to be pretty similar, so if you feel like you don't need to see them, then you can go ahead and get right onto the homework, which is going to be numbers, let's do 7, 9, 11, and 13 on homework 6. Okay, but otherwise you can stick around and see these 2 more examples. Okay, so with this guy, we are going left 4 and down 7. So I'm going to go ahead and say my vertical asymptote is x equals negative 4, and my horizontal asymptote is at y equals negative 7. That was the left 4 and the down 7. Okay, so left 4, I got a vertical asymptote. Down 7, I think that's right here, I got a horizontal asymptote. And remember, those are also my restrictions on my domain and my range. Those are things we can't equal because remember, asymptotes are things that we cannot equal. So we're going to have this guy right here come down and look something like that. And this one we're only going to see a little part of. It should be like that right there, kind of. Right? And then finally for number 9, it looks like we're going right 5 and up 3. So right 5 and up 3. There's my vertical asymptote and my horizontal asymptote, just like that. Remember, that also gives us what our domain and our range cannot equal. So I'm going to go at 5 and 3. And then to finish off, you'll notice we have a negative out in front. So what we have to do here is we have to flip everything over the x-axis. So it's going to look more like this and this for this guy right here. Okay, that's it. So remember, for homework, I want you to do numbers 7, 9, 11, and 13 on homework 6 here. Have fun.